Jason, once again, today's episode is brought to the fine people of Lee's Summit by Budget Blinds of Lee's Summit.
Budget Blinds!
Hey, Jason, I know we've said this a few times before, but it bears repeating. Fourth Friday Art Walk in downtown is coming up this weekend, this Friday, and our friends at Budget Blinds have a special event just for the people and
Art
for a special cause.
Art for a pause.
That's right. Art for a pause. Our friends at Budget Blinds are helping support the KC Pet Project this time.
Everybody loves them dogs. So this is a cool deal. First of all, it's Fourth Friday, so it's a good time downtown. But this event will have a guest artist, Ashley Corbello. She specializes in pet portraits. And you may have seen her work if you are a peruser of art fairs. You may have seen her in Lee's Summit Art Fair or the Westport Art Festival. She will be there doing making pet portraits and doing those sorts of things.
And in addition to the live ones, take a look at the wall. She's got some pretty cool pieces of art that are already hanging on the wall there at Budget Blinds.
So there you go. There'll be some T-shirts from Mission Driven Goods that will be available there as well.
And as an added attraction, here's a nice thing. Specialty drinks provided by the W Speakeasy Bar. However, these special drinks, guys, it's a reward. It's a reward for bringing a donation in for KC Pet Project. Jason, where can they go to see some of the things that KC Pet Project is in need of?
Well, they could go to a website, for instance, perhaps kcpetproject.org. We'll have a list of, if you click through into there, they'll have a list of items that they need. Of course, you're always welcome to give a cash donation. Every nonprofit in the world will take that. They do
take cash.
We do take, all nonprofits will take cash. In addition to all that, so not only can you go on the 28th and support them, but you could go in this week or on the 28th and buy some blinds, and $1 from every blind you purchase during the month of June will be donated from Budget Blinds to KC Pet Project. So they're going to donate from their own proceeds. They're holding this fundraiser and stuff raiser and making plenty of opportunities for you, the good people of Lee's Summit, to join them, the good people of Budget Blinds, to help this fine charity.
And this is why they are, truly our friends. They're great sponsors of this show, but this is why they are our friends, as they are always, always, always doing things for the community. So a big thank you and a link to Lee's Summit, good on you, to our friends at Budget Blinds. Guys, go see them right in the heart of downtown. Tell them Jason Nick sent you. Hello and welcome to Lee's Summit Town Hall. This is our Friday conversation. With me today is John Hardesty. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you.
Now, John, I know you a little bit. We both serve on the Lee's Summit Arts Council, and so we've got to know each other just a little bit. At our June meeting that we had just this past week, I heard an announcement you made that you have a concert coming up where you are going to perform piano and I believe sing?
No, I am not a vocalist.
You're not a vocalist? No. Okay.
You do not want to hear me sing. My fingers do my singing.
Well, I had heard some, when you first came on the council, and I think it's been 3 months now, 4 months, that you have a background in music as a pianist, as a composer. So I thought it would be kind of fun to have you come on the show a little bit, and we talk a little bit about music. I am in awe of those with artistic talents. I have about a smidge of talent. I do stick figures really well, as long as I have a ruler, so that they can be straight lines. And that's about it. I have a little background in strings. I played cello as a kid, but to be able to write music, to make music, and not just play what other people write is to me an incredible talent, and one that I respect a lot, and I don't get. I don't know how to do that. So let's just start a little bit at the beginning. How did you start into music? What is it that draws you in?
Well, to begin with, I'm grateful that I was blessed with some kind of a gene, I guess. I actually was adopted when I was about 6 weeks old. And I found out only a few years ago that my birth mother was a pianist. She played piano and organ, has played all her life. I've never met her, and I won't. But I discovered that she had this ability, she was living with my adoptive grandparents at the time. They all gathered for Thanksgiving dinner, and I was born then on December 8th following. So I had a front row seat for all that music. And when I was 6 years old, my family had moved back to Texas from Washington, D.C., and one of our neighbors called my mom one day, and she said, "I know John played the piano." And my mother said, "He doesn't." And so this lady said, "Well, you might want to come down and listen. He's sitting in my living room playing my piano right now." So my mom came in the back door, and sure enough, I guess I was playing something I had heard on the radio. I have no idea. But that's the first time that anybody was aware that I could play piano.
Did you realize then, or I guess how did that kind of evolve, that you found that you could hear something and then recreate it, whether you're sitting on the piano or whatever, but that's not something all of us can do.
That's true. And I'm not sure exactly how I do that. I mean, what I do now is really a lot more than that, because I don't really sit and play things that I hear. What I do is I create things in the moment. For instance, when I was still living in Houston, there was a nonprofit organization there called St. Julian Press, and it was formed to promote poets and their work. And they had, once a quarter, they would have an evening of music and poetry. And I was the music, and I would sit and listen to these poets read their poems, usually 3 or 4 at a time. And then I would do a musical interpretation of what I had just heard. And so that's what I'm going to be doing on this concert, not listening to poetry, but I will be doing solos that I'm creating in that moment that I've never played before.
It's almost like a jazz approach to things, to where you allow the improvisation to happen.
I guess it is, and I'm not a jazz pianist, and I'm not a classical pianist. I'm someplace in the middle. I tell people I'm kind of a mix of Yanni and John Tesh and Jim Brickman.
Well, it's funny. So before you came in, I went to your website and I listened to some of the music that you have. And by the way, John Hardesty on iTunes, you can go find it. But I listened to some of it, and so I'm going to ask you this, because I caught maybe a hint, some influence of, to me, maybe some 70s and 80s musicals. Kind of like just that influence there of that style. Am I close there? Am I?
Again, I'm not sure where all this comes from. It just downloads. And people ask me, what I do. One of the things I say is I channel the divine. I get out of the way, and I just allow this music to emerge through me. I'm just the vessel. And so,
well, what's that moment like? Is it? Do you? Is it a process where you sit down and, hey, I'm going to create something, or is there a moment of, I got to get this out, I've got an idea? Is it when you're listening to something you just feel a little inspiration? What is your process like?
Well, it's different from when I'm just creating in the moment at the keyboard, and when I'm actually writing, say, lyrics for a song, or and that's what I do first, is the lyrics, and then I sit down, and the song usually writes itself. The music usually comes, and so that's different, because I am thinking, okay, now what's going to work here? But when I'm just sitting there playing the piano, I have no idea what I'm going to play next, and I'm not really thinking about it. That's what's interesting. One time in Houston, I did a concert with a violinist, and we talked to the audience about how each of us did what we do. And I just said what I just told you. I just allow it. I don't think about it at all. It just happens. He, on the other hand, is, as he's playing, he's going, okay, that sounds pretty good. I think, let's see, what can I do next? So it's like I was astounded at his process, given how simple mine is. It's just, there's really not any thought to it.
So when you're recording, because you have recorded albums, you've put things out, and when you're working toward a show like you're doing now, is there is there some you let it just kind of flow out and then you go back and tweak, or are you just, this is what came out and that's what it is?
This is what came out and that's what it is.
So how do you prepare for a concert like you're planning next month? And we'll take a quick pause because I want to make sure we get this out there. It's July 26th at 7:30, and it's going to be at the 1900 building, which is in Shawnee, Kansas. So how do you prepare?
Well, I just sit down and play. It's a matter of, it's sort of like practicing scales, but I'm just practicing playing, and I just play all different kinds of styles and in different keys, and just it's kind of like doing exercise, to get your muscles in shape.
Right.
That's really basically all it is. Because when I've recorded in the studio, for instance, I've got a couple of CDs that I walk in, sit down, and I just create one song after another song after another song, and it's one take. That's it. And there is no sheet music for any of that. This, like you said, this is what you get. So that's what I'm going to be doing at the concert. And I have some cohorts that will be assisting me. One of them is Max Dyer, who is a cellist, longtime cellist with the Houston Ballet Orchestra.
Which, by the way, is the best of all string instruments. Let's just put that out there.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree completely.
Now we can stay friends.
Yes. And Max is one of the most incredible improvisationalists I've ever heard. He can play anything. He's been on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people's CD projects. And when I met him through the engineer that was helping me record my CDs, and I called Randy and I said, I want to do a concert, and I want somebody else. Don't want it to just be me. And I said, maybe a violin or a cello or something. And he said, I know a guy that plays cello. You need to call him. So I did. And Max came over and got his instrument out, and he said, so play. So I just played. I just created something. And then when I finished, he looked at me and he said, how did you do that? And I said, I don't know. And he said, no, really, how did you do that? And I said, well, I guess the best way to describe it is I just got out of the way and let it emerge. And he stood up at the concert that we wound up doing together a few weeks later, and he said to everybody, he said, this is what John said. And he said, what I know about John is he's let go of a lot of things in his life to be who he is now.
I don't know that I've ever heard that line, I just got out of the way. I don't know if I've ever heard that with music before. Mm. I've heard some other artists say it. I've definitely heard writers say it about telling their stories and stuff. So it's interesting to hear you say that about your music. So how do you do that when you play with somebody else, when you do a duet? Because look, I understand that jazz artists have done that forever. I understand that that's what they do. I don't understand how they do it. Because I think of duets that I played long ago when I was a sort of musician. I did what my mommy told me to do. What I don't get is how you can improvise with a partner. You don't know where they're going. And if they're improvising as well, how do you keep it together? Because look, the best duets, the great duets are well planned. I mean, it's a strategy of blending voices or tones. So I'm really kind of at a loss of how do you do that?
That's a great question. And I don't know whether I know how to answer it or not. Because all I know is, for instance, when Max and I play together, we have this chemistry that's just amazing. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do next, and I'm listening. I think the key to it is listening, because if you don't listen, you're just focused on you, and that's not going to work. But I feel like I take the lead for the most part when he and I play together. But there will come a time when I know I need to back away and let him be the solo voice. And so I will create something that undergirds what he's doing. And it's just an automatic process that it works. I mean, I can't explain it any better than you can.
Do you find yourself, do you exchange like glances at each other? Are there subtle signals maybe that you send, or is it really just kind of in the moment and you've got that rapport already built up that you get a feel for where he's going to go?
I think it's more that because most of the time Max is sitting behind me. And so I don't see him. I know
the cello always gets put in the back.
No, to the side. But I remember a concert that we did in Houston, and I was kind of upset when the concert started, and I won't go into any details. But anyway, I was. And so when I got back on track by doing a solo, that was not the first thing that was the second number being my solo. It was a mass ensemble thing to start the concert. So I did a solo that calmed me down, and then he came on stage, and he was behind me. Like I said, I was on the piano bench, and I was sitting there just contemplating, okay, what will this be? And all of a sudden I hear him going, and he's trying to get my attention, and he realized, I think, that I was not in a good place, and he was just trying to somehow take the edge off that. And I was ignoring him, but he kept on, and finally it made me relax, and then we did an amazing number after that.
That sounds a little bit back to what you said earlier, that it's about listening.
It is,
that is a parallel probably to every kind of relationship that you can make with somebody.
Absolutely. And it certainly makes sense when you talk about jazz. And I don't know much about jazz. I'm very respectful of jazz players. I like
it. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm in awe. But I know what I do know is that they have to listen to one another, and that's a key point, I think.
And I've been to some, like I said, I like it. I don't understand how it happens, and I'm glad it does. But I've been to some concerts and some shows, and it's amazing to me to watch these people walk onto a stage. And I'm assuming we're going to see the same thing with you at this one. We're just people come on a stage and just play.
Yes.
That's it. That's amazing to me. That is a talent that I don't understand, but I'm glad it exists somewhere with someone. And I reserve the right to stay jealous that it doesn't exist within me.
Well, let me say this. Those of us who do very much need those of you who really appreciate. We need an audience that loves what we do.
Let me. Are there influences? We kind of hinted at this earlier, and you put yourself kind of in the vein of a Yanni and a John Tesh. Are those influences for you? Are there influences? Is there music that you listen to that kind of gets that creative juice flowing?
Well, my parents had a fantastic collection of classical records. They were 78 RPMs when I was a kid. And when I would get fussy, my mom said she would put me in my playpen and put a stack of those on the record player. And she said I would get in the best mood in no time flat. And so I know that classical has been, the sounds of that have influenced me since day one. I also played piano and organ in church almost my entire life. And so that was also an influence. I don't really have, I listen to watercolors a lot in my car on the radio, and Spa I think also is a different channel. I just very calming music, and I love classical. Love to go to the symphony, but I don't listen to a lot of pop or rock or anything like that. As a matter of fact, my wife is just an expert on all the music from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. She can sing all the songs, and even when I started a corporate career years ago, I would have a classical station on in my office just to keep me calm, because I shouldn't have been in that office to begin with. I should have been at the piano. But anyway, yeah, I don't listen to a lot of music, and I think one of the reasons that I don't is because I don't want to start doing what I did when I began, like playing something by ear that I heard. It's important to me to create something that's mine, that,
So you don't enjoy playing other people's music at all?
well, I won't say that, because I do a lot of that. I play at a lot of retirement centers around the Kansas City area, and I play cover music from the 1930s all the way up to current stuff. So yes, I do enjoy doing that, but I don't listen to it. I don't.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about you didn't belong in the corporate world when you had that job, and I read some on your website that talked about how when you left and you made a conscious effort to get focus on music. What was that when you left that corporate job? Was that was the music part of that decision? What was that like for you?
I think it was. I somehow knew that if I didn't leave that job, I would leave the planet. I was so stressed in that job. I didn't belong there, and I hadn't had the courage to leave. I did all that to please my father, and he had been dead since 1974, and we're talking the year 2000 here. So I was in the job to support my family, basically, but it was not feeding my soul. And as a matter of fact, one of the guys that I had worked with for a number of years came to that first concert, that Max and Julia, the soprano that's going to be with us on the 26th as well. We did my first concert together in Houston, and this guy came up on stage afterward, and he said, "What the heck were you doing in the tax business?" And I said, "Well, I was feeding my family." I said, "Now I'm feeding my soul." And he said, "Well, don't quit."
That is a nice bit of encouragement.
Absolutely.
From a friend.
Absolutely.
And someone that you worked with to
Yes.
say, to give you that nod of you're doing a good thing for you.
Yes.
You on your website, I'll admit I didn't go to this one first. The first one I went to was the one that said duet with a cello, because cello. So the next one I went to though was a live recording, and it was one of the things you said right before, as you said, "What would an evening with me be like without the mention of love?" And that kind of thing, as I clicked through your site, seemed to be a repetitive theme.
It is.
Is there something to that you're writing to?
Yes, absolutely. One of the things I do, one of the things I love best is writing songs for people's weddings. And I interview them, find out about each of them individually and as a couple, and then I create something about them. And I wrote my wife a song for our wedding. It's on my website too. It's called "When I Think of Love," and she thinks it's the most beautiful song in the whole world. And the first song I ever wrote for her, she was going to have a birthday, and I said, "What do you want for your birthday?" And she said, "Write me a song." And I said, "Okay." And I haven't been writing songs that long. I tried for years and just couldn't get there with the lyrics mostly. And so I went to Julia, this friend of mine who's a soprano that's going to be singing with me, and I said, "I just can't do this. I don't know how to." And she said, "Oh, here." She took a piece of notebook paper. She had taken a class on songwriting, and she starts writing down stuff and this, that, and the other, and I went, "I can do that." And I just gave myself permission in that moment, I guess. And
Did you get out of the way?
Yeah, I did. And I stopped telling myself that I couldn't do it. And so the lyrics just started rolling out. And so I wrote a song for Marilyn for her birthday called "Wondrous Love." So there's just, love is a big theme for me. Love is very important to me. I think that love is the most important thing on the planet. And the more I can write about it and play it, the greater difference I think I can make.
Does the definition change the more you write, the more you think about it, the more you actually love?
Yes, it does. It gets deeper and deeper and deeper.
You said writing the lyrics, that doesn't come easily, naturally for you, that you've grown into it. Have you gotten to a point where the words, the verbal poetry plays the same role as the music?
That's an interesting question. I hadn't really thought about that. Sometimes it does. Yes. Some of my songs I think are just really powerful. They're about living life and doing it with grace and ease, and in spite of all of our obstacles, because there are obstacles to living with grace and ease. But I believe that you can do that. And so that's one of the things I communicate in some of the songs I write. And I write about the beauty all around us and possibility. I love to write about possibility.
What is that to you?
That is limitless opportunity that each of us has. So many people just shut down for whatever reason. We start telling ourselves stories about our lives. We start becoming victims to what happens, and we think it's happening to us, and it's not. It's happening through us, and we have to take responsibility for that. We're not really victims, but a lot of people can't get out of that. And so what I try to express in writing these lyrics is, no, you can get out of that. It's a choice, and it's so much more powerful to think, yes, I can, than no, I can't. And believe me, I'm a human being just like everybody else, and I tell myself, no, I can't, plenty. But I've had enough training now to know, yes, I can, in spite of everything. As a matter of fact, this concert that I'm doing on the 26th, the title of it is Say Yes to Life.
Was the music your path out of? You talk about, you use the word victim, and I think everybody has something in their life where they could claim that role. Was the music your path out of that?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for asking. Yes.
So here's the big question: when you are writing, when you meet a couple and you're going to write for them, or when your wife Marilyn says, "John, make me some music, write about me," what comes first, the lyrics or the music?
The lyrics usually, and I think I'm just sort of in the habit of doing that. Again, I could sit down if somebody asked me to, and just create something right there for them. Just out of the conversation, just like I did out of listening to the poetry being read. So that could come first, but to me it seems a lot more difficult to put lyrics to something that I've already written than to have the music accompany the lyrics.
Do you like poetry?
I do. I'm not a huge fan, but I do. Yeah, some poetry I just think is amazing.
What style, what type of thing appeals to you?
Now you're
I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah,
That's what I do every once in a while.
Yeah, I got it. Really about beauty, for one thing, love, obviously. And I love to read things about overcoming, about, again, possibility. That's just such an important aspect of life for me.
Are you better at it now than when you started? Does writing the poetry, the words, does that come easier?
I think it does, a little bit anyway. Yeah. Once I told myself I could, it got pretty easy. As a matter of fact, one of the songs I've written, that it's called "Stepping into Greatness," I wrote in the middle of the night on a cruise out in the Gulf of Mexico, and I just woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning and couldn't go back to sleep. And I knew there was something brewing, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And so I got dressed and started walking the decks. And I was pretty much by myself. And I located the library on this ship and sat down and got out my pad and pencil. And I started writing and crying and writing and crying. And I thought, this is my life that I'm writing here. And then I went, wait a minute, this is everybody's life. And so I think you'll be interested to hear this song when you come to the concert. It's amazing. It's all about starting out in obstacles and then seeing what's possible.
Well, let me ask this, because you just said earlier in this interview, you talked about how the music isn't done before you go in. So are you going to be writing to these lyrics while are you creating the music for the lyrics?
No, not in the concert. The concert's going to be the instrumentals will be the improvisations.
Right.
But the songs that are going to be sung, I've already written.
Right. But the music hasn't been made yet.
Yes. Yes, it has.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the lyrics are written, and I wrote the accompaniment, the instrumental accompaniment, and so I will simply be accompanying either the tenor or the soprano who are singing these.
Okay, I understand now.
Yes.
Now, I was just about to, mind blown again. Okay, here's the lyrics. I'm just going to play.
No. And maybe I could. I don't know. I've not tried that.
Is it? Well, that makes me curious. Then, is that a different process for you to create the accompanying music for a song that you've written, because your process is to just sit down and let it happen? Does it still work that way even though you've written lyrics, or is there more of a methodology to it when you're writing accompaniment?
There has to be more of a methodology to it, simply because you've got some restrictions given the words and the length of the sentences and whatever, and you've got to fit things into whatever the tempo is. So all of that is a little constrictive as far as creating music, and I shouldn't even say constrictive. It just gives you more of a structure than what I use when I improvise.
Do you feel a little constricted by structure?
No, I don't let myself feel constricted. I mean, I know I'm creating, and that's exciting to me. It's not as exciting as not knowing what the heck's going to come next, but I really don't know that when I'm writing accompaniment for lyrics to begin with, and that changes. I mean, I'll work on one or two measures. I'll change the notes I'm putting in, or the like. Maybe I've had a half note and 2/4. I might change that to a dotted half and a couple of eighths or something like that, or change the pitch, or it's a creative process, and it is completely different than just improvising.
Is it just as fun for you?
No. No.
Do you in the end get maybe the same sense of pleasure when it's done?
I do. Yes. When it's complete, and especially when it's performed, if I'm writing it for someone and they hear it and they love it, it just touches my heart.
Well, it sounds like there are, I'm going to say, some recurring themes and words here. Love, passion, permission. It seems a lot of your life seems to be about giving permission to do things, which is interesting to me, and I think kind of cool. That you give yourself permission to do a lot of this stuff.
Well, some people don't need it. I grew up, since I was adopted, I think that made me feel like I had to be a good boy. I had to do exactly what my parents wanted all the time, or they would, I believe that they would send me back from wherever they got me for a long time. So, yes, I've had to give myself permission, because I looked to them for permission for things for many, many years. And so I'm really happy that I'm able to give myself permission now. It's very freeing.
Well, that is an awesome thing. When you reach that point in a life where you can allow yourself to be free, that is a fantastic thing to have reached. Well, John, before we wrap things up here, tell us one more time, when is this concert?
The concert is Friday, July 26th. That's the last Friday evening in July. It's at 7:30 p.m. It's at the 1900 office building, actually, in the Parkway Room. That's at the corner of Shawnee Mission Parkway and State Line Road. So
all of our listeners, I am going to give them permission this time. It's okay to leave Lee Summit for this one.
Absolutely. And let me tell you who else is on stage with me. I told you about Max, the cellist. Also,
really, do we need to go farther than that?
Yes. Julia Laskowski is an opera-trained soprano, but she can sing anything. She has done several productions of Always Patsy Cline, where she was Patsy Cline. And you would absolutely, if you were not looking at her, you would think you were hearing Patsy Cline sing. She's incredible.
Wow.
She's done a lot of musical comedy. This woman can do anything, but she's amazing. And a lot of the music I've written with her voice in mind. And then David Adams is joining us. He's a tenor, and he lives here in Kansas City and actually has a Grammy Award to his credit. And so he's going to be a great addition. I've never actually concertized with him before, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm really excited about it. So the four of us are committed to playing with and for all of you.
Well, that sounds incredible. The last thing I want to talk about before you go is that this is a benefit. And we are while I'm giving everyone permission to leave Lee Summit for this one event, it's actually going to help an organization and some kids here in our community. This is going to benefit Prodeo Youth Center. This is the only youth center in our area. How did that connection get made?
Well, actually, it was my wife. She met Elaine Metcalf, who is the director of the Prodeo Youth Center, and they just became immediate friends. And Marilyn and I are both very much into children's education and how important that is. And so it just became really apparent that the programs that Elaine has set up at Prodeo are just amazing and so supportive in equipping these kids to live prosperous lives. So I just decided that I wanted 20% of the ticket sales to go to Prodeo.
Well, that is fantastic, and we appreciate it. I'm going to speak for everyone in town. We appreciate you taking an opportunity to support one of our great organizations. One of the tenets of this show is to celebrate and encourage people to be involved and be supportive of our community. So thank you, and a good on you for that. John, thank you so much for joining me today, and good luck in the concert. We'll see you then.
Thank you.
Today's episode of Lee Summit Town Hall is brought to you by Shred KC. Jason, good folks at Shred.
Are they still taking care of you?
They are still taking care of me. And look, if you are ready to kind of flip that switch and try to get healthy, eat better, get fit, live a little better.
Has the doctor cleared you to flip a switch with your right arm
No.
yet? Okay.
No. Well, as long as it's under 7 pounds.
Okay.
As long as it's under 7 pounds, I can use my right arm to do that. But I'm gonna say this. I've lost a good amount of weight. I've got more to go. But I feel better. I think I look a little better. I mean, look, as better as I can. I mean,
there is a ceiling.
There are limits to what you can do to fix this.
Yes.
I mean, there's a reason we do an audio format.
Absolutely.
But if you're ready, I think at some point we all kind of hit that where we're not what we used to be, or we're not what we could be. It's time to live healthier. And so these are the people I think that are doing a good job of helping people, not just in Lee Summit, but all around the area, turn the page and do better. So go see our friends out at Shred KC. Tell them Jason and Nick sing it. You have been listening to Lee Summit Town Hall, a Link to Lee Summit podcast with hosts Nick Parker and Jason Norberry. A proud member of the Fredcast Network, you can subscribe to this podcast on most of your favorite podcast apps and catch us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for all the news, analysis, and conversations on the Lee Summit community. Connect with us on Facebook at Link to Lee Summit or on Twitter at LS Town Hall.